In this video, I'm going to show you how to get amazing sounding pianos that cut through the mix. This is great if you're doing any sort of pop music, rock music, country music, anywhere where you want your pianos to sound really sparkly and just cut through the mix at those kind of opportune moments. So let's dive in and take a look. Now, the first thing when it comes to pianos is getting the sound right at source. I bang on about this in so many of my videos, but I honestly can't stress how important that is. Now, most people don't have the luxury of recording a real grand piano or upright piano, and that's absolutely fine. Honestly, there's very little need to do that nowadays. There's so many virtual instruments that sound amazing. I'm a big fan of addictive keys. The UAD Ravel piano sounds good. There's loads of native instrument pianos, but this is the one that I tend to keep coming back to over and over again. Now, the main thing I'm looking for when I'm choosing a piano sound is brightness. The problem with pianos when you come to mix, particularly if it's quite a dense pop, rock, country mix, is that they're never bright enough. So I want to start with a brighter sound. If you're doing something that's a little bit more stripped back, you know, sort of like singer-songwriter where it's just a piano and a vocal, then absolutely you can go for something super dark and quite intimate. But if it's something that we want to cut through the mix, we're gonna have to make it bright. And on addictive keys, there is this setting here called intense keys that I really, really like the sound of. Take a listen to this. So already we're getting lots of attack from the hammers on the strings and it's nice and bright. This is exactly what we want. If I show you something else by comparison, that sounds nice. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a gorgeous piano sound, but I know that I'm going to have to be adding a ton of brightness for that in this particular mix. That's also really nice. It's quite hard in the upper mids. Something like that could work really well. It's got a more mono sound to it. And honestly, sometimes in a really big mix, making your piano mono can be a great way to kind of place it exactly where you want. So don't discount that. I'm going to go for this one though, the intense keys. I just love the attack and the brightness that's already baked into the sound. So that's the one that I would normally go with. Now, in this particular song, the piano is a key feature in the chorus, and weirdly, the chorus is quite stripped back. So take a listen to how it sounds, and then I'll show you how I'm processing it.
Wonder what I might find. I've been fighting for the longest time. You gave your heart, you held this heart of mine. I was broken, I was left behind. You took my hand and led me to the light.
Okay, so it's super simple, but the piano is just right where we need it in the track with lots of brightness, and it just kind of cuts through exactly what we want. So we started with a particularly bright sound, but in the mix I'm going to have to make it a lot brighter. And on piano I love boosting around 5k. For me that is kind of the magic frequency, and nothing does this better on piano than an API 550. Of course you can use any EQ you want. You can also play around with the frequencies as well. You might decide to go a bit higher, a little bit lower. There are no rules. But for me, 9 times out of 10, boosting the hell out of an API 550 at 5k just sounds incredible. So I'm using the plugin from Slate, this FGA, and I'm actually boosting the 5k on this top band. This is a shelf. I could have done it on this middle band here, and I could have boosted a ton. That would have produced like a bell curve because it's the middle one. But when I listened to them side by side, this is the one that sounded good. So it's boosting at 5k, but then we're also getting that shelf. It's boosting all the frequencies that come after it. There's not a ton of information up there with piano, but it's just that air that we tend to get. So take a listen to the piano. This is without anything on it. This is just the raw recorded sound. Very nice, sounds great. Let's now just engage this EQ. I've got a little bit of console saturation before it, nothing big, but let's listen to the EQ sound now. What I love about that is that it gives that air and it gives that sort of sparkle, but it also brings out the attack of the piano keys as well, the attack of the hammers hitting the strings. Now, a couple of other things that's happening to this piano are some send effects. I'm sending this signal to a crowd delay and also a reverb, a hall reverb. Let's just take a look at those and what they're doing. So the crowd delay is this plugin here. It's the Ursa Major Space Station, and it is just a series of short, sharp delays. I've spoke about this in many other videos. It's in my Cubase mix template as well, and I put a ton of stuff through this. I put pianos, I put strings, I'll put acoustic guitars, even some electric guitars. I just like the space that this adds. And then the other thing that the piano is going through is just a hall reverb, H3000 unit, and it's just a hall, just a warm sounding hall with around a second of decay time on it. So now those are in, let's take one final listen. So that delay in the reverb just helps to put it in a space. Let's take a listen in the mix. So this is without anything at all on the piano. This is just it completely raw.
Wonder what I might find. I've been fighting for the longest time. You gave your heart.
So it sounds okay, but it's not bright enough. We're not getting enough sparkle. We're not getting that air. And we're getting too much build up in the low mids. As soon as we engage that 550 EQ with a 5K boost and also those delays and reverbs, it just transforms it.
I've been fighting for the longest time. You gave your heart, you held this heart of mine.
Now here's another example of a piano cutting through a mix, but this is a much denser, bigger rock country style production. Take a listen to this. So throughout the chorus, the piano's just offering some solid block chords really, but every so often we just have that little tinkle that just adds a little bit of excitement in between the vocal phrases. We want them to poke out, we want to hear them, we want all of that air and all of that excitement from them. So let's take a listen to the piano on its own with absolutely nothing added to it. So that's okay, but again, it is way too dark. Even though we chose a bright sounding piano to start with, if that's going to cut through all of the drums, the guitars, we need some more brightness. So as usual, I'm reaching for the API 550 EQ. I just love that thing on pianos. And we've got a sizable boost at 5K. I said this time I'm going for the middle frequency bands, which is a bell curve. And then I've got a huge 10K shelf, boosting all the way, the full thing, 12 dB. This combination for this particular mix just seemed to work really, really well for me, and it just added that brightness that we needed. Let's take a listen to what that now sounds like. And the other thing that notice we're doing here, when the piano does that little run, we're automating it. We've got that volume boost as well. We do also have some effects. So again, I'm using the same crowd delay. That's the Ursa Major. The same H3000 Hall. I've also got a marble room. That's a Bricasti reverb as well this time, just to add a little bit more space and depth. It's a bigger mix, want it to sound grand. Put those in. Put all of that together, this is what we're left with. Now, if you're a musician, a songwriter, or you're in a band, you're releasing music in any way, shape or form, then it's very likely that your EPK is one of the most important documents that you have. Your EPK is what you will be constantly sending out to get more opportunities to get your music heard. So whether that's to radio stations and DJs, whether it's to blogs, magazines that can feature you, give you an interview, whether it's to playlisters for Spotify, the list is endless. But your EPK is what you will send to introduce yourself, to give people a little taste of who you are, what you do, what you're about, and also, crucially, link links to hear your music. And if your EPK sucks, if it doesn't contain the right information, or it's just not aesthetically pleasing, it just looks amateur, then very likely anybody that you send it to won't even give your music a chance. They'll delete your email and your EPK will go straight into the bin. And if that's the case, then you are absolutely missing out on opportunities to grow your fan base. Now, to help with this, I've created a free template that anybody can use to design an EPK that looks incredible, but crucially contains all of the relevant information that you need to have on there to impress whoever it is that you're sending it to. And best of all, this template is super simple to use. You can have your EPK up and running, designed so it looks amazing, with all of the relevant information on, literally within minutes. So there's a link in the description below. Go ahead and click it, and that will give you instant free access to this EPK template.